Hello Internet. There's been a patch recently for Warframe which has buffed various weapons, including the Attica, and now there's a bit of discussion going on the forums. Some say this thing is massively OP now, it's the new Boltor Prime. Others say it's hugely overrated. And there are a few videos on the internet which I've seen on YouTube so far which show off a bit of low to mid-level gameplay, and I wasn't quite satisfied with that, so I wanted to see how this weapon works when you add more mods, maybe a couple formers on it. So this is the build I'm going with, because basically what I'm trying to do is raise the already ridiculously high base damage of the Attica as much as somehow possible. So all of these mods should be fairly self-explanatory. I'm also leaving various options for the final mod slot. For instance, you could go with Wildfire, which increases the magazine a tiny bit, because let's face it, 16 shots isn't a whole lot, but even at 19 shots it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Another thing that you could go with, for instance, would be High Voltage, because that one increases both your status chance a lot and you get a bit of extra damage out of it, which is great. And if you go for anything super high level, like any lengthy tier 4 missions, this is probably what you'll want to go with, because that way you get the highest damage per shot. Another thing you could go for is Speed Trigger, to get a bit of extra burst damage if you want to, but however, at 16 shots per magazine it's probably not the wisest thing in the world to do, especially since you want to take your shots slowly and deliberately, make them count, make sure every one of them hits, because if you just spray your whole load all over the place like some 15-year-old who's touching a boob for the first time in his life, you'll be standing around reloading a whole lot, and at 2.8 seconds per reload, that's not the best option. Personally, for hilarity, I'm going with Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt does cause explosions which have a massive radius. They only hit for, I think, 250 blast damage per shot, which isn't a whole lot. It's not the best option if you want to do the most amount of damage possible, and it's also very dangerous because you'll be hitting yourself a whole lot, but it's just so much fun. So for the sake of this video, I'm going with Thunderbolt for now. Of course, you could also go with different specs and, for instance, go with a critical build. As you can see, there's a base crit chance of 20%. However, with a crit modifier of 1.5 times, it's not really worth it in my opinion. Sure, you can probably boost that with things like Hammer Shot and so on and so forth, get it all the way up to 420% crit damage, but that would also mean you'd neglect all the base damage here, and you wouldn't really gain a whole lot. So personally, I prefer going with elemental mods, go with Serration, Heavy Caliber, all the usual suspects. And to see how this thing performs, I don't have any tier 4 keys on me at the moment. We'll go with the tier 3 Exterminate and just see how this thing works. For the duration of the mission, I will be sabotaged by my Kubro, who will, without a doubt, get in my way a lot and make projectiles explode right in my face. Should probably put the Iron Skin up. And as you can see right there, you will have to make those shots count. If you run out of ammo, you'll be standing around for nearly 3 seconds reloading, and the whole time you're getting pelted with bullets, which of course isn't a massive problem on Rhino on this difficulty, but it's generally better to just kill things as quickly as possible. So you need to line up those shots. As you can see, the gun is fairly accurate, crossbow even. So if enemies are too far away and if they run around a lot, due to the travel time and a bit of a drop with the bolts, it becomes difficult to hit things. You can master it, but it's, let's say, it's more difficult to use than a hit scan weapon like the Soma. It requires a bit of practice. And as you might have noticed, the explosions don't really help a whole lot. When you're fighting single opponents, they don't really add much. And if you're in the void, that 250 extra points of damage per explosion, it doesn't really make much of a difference. It's just fun to look at. I like it. It's a matter of personal preference. But mods such as high voltage or possibly a hammer shot probably raise your overall damage per shot a little more than that. As you can see, there goes my iron skin, thanks to the explosion. And this is where we've skipped a battle. So as you can see, the Attica performs well enough. It's a good, strong weapon. I'm very fond of it, but I wouldn't say it's the one weapon to rule them all, the next big thing, the one thing that's better than absolutely everything else. Simply because, first of all, it is rather difficult to hit enemies at a distance, which of course won't matter to you if you go all out and, you know, balls out and just rush in there. But it is difficult to hit things with it compared to hit scan weapons. Another problem is the 16 bolts per shot, which simply isn't all that much, and of course you can counter that with mods, but the moment you do that, you will potentially lose out on extra damage you could get through, say, elemental mods or any damage increasing mods. Another advantage is that, in theory, if enemies stand close enough to each other, you can kill multiple bad guys with one shot, because the bolts would pass right through them. Just die already. It's also not necessarily the best weapon to use if you like your Kubro, because they just love to stand right in front of you, watching you get shot, and the whole time your projectiles will be bouncing off the Kubro and exploding right in front of you. Another problem that happens every once in a while is that I stand right in front of an enemy and the bolts pass right through and don't seem to really do any damage at all. Which, I don't know, it might just be on my end, perhaps it's lag, but it does get annoying in sticky situations. A huge plus is the weapon's ammo efficiency. While you do need to reload a whole lot, which takes forever, you won't run out of ammo completely. I mean, you're running around with nearly 600 bolts. I don't know where they're putting them. And this weapon is ridiculously ammo efficient. Of course, this might not matter to you if you just bring your own ammo packs to missions. So again, it's probably down to personal preference. Personally, I like not having to restock ammo in the middle of a mission because, you know, if you're in the middle of a survival, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. You don't want to be sitting around on those ammo recharges. So that might be a small advantage over the Boltor Prime, which at higher level missions does tend to run out of ammo a little faster. There's a floating gunner, my Kubro's just looking at him because they're also useless. Right, and this is where the game tells me that we've skipped 2 bad guys on accident and we gotta run all the way back. That's just great. So, again, the Attica. Should you throw away your Bolter and start over with the Attica? Probably not. It really doesn't make much of a difference. It does have a huge amount of damage per shot, but again, 16 shots later, you'll be finding yourself reloading for 2.8 seconds, which is a lot. It's probably as good as the Bolter. Of course, I can't really judge that from a tier 4 point of view because I don't really play, say, 40 plus minutes of survival on the absolute highest difficulty. But for your everyday kind of use, the Attica is more than competent. It might not be the greatest weapon in the game, but it's definitely a whole lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of Thunderbolt. With the recent nerf to launchers, it is pretty nice to have an alternative, to have some kind of portable rocket launcher, grenade launcher. It's pretty similar to that, and yeah, while the damage per explosive certainly doesn't really make much of a difference on the higher levels, it's just a whole lot of fun sometimes to go to any lobby or mid-level missions and just blow up a whole lot of baddies with, you know, just a few quick explosions. And that's the Attica. If you have anything to add, if you have any questions, feel free to use the comment section below.